Today I'm going to use this painting to teach you how to approach doing the mid values in watercolor painting. Sup, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. And in this one, what I want to do is talk about the second wash. Okay, that is the wash that defines the mid values of a watercolor painting. Now, this is a very challenging topic, and this video can be seen as a continuation for my video on the initial wash, okay, with another painting that I shared with you, I believe, already. And the second wash is really challenging because what happens is the first wash, you kind of let everything flow together, be even, maybe you define some warm and cool areas, and you skip the highlight, you paint around the highlights, okay, or you leave the highlights white if you're planning on leaving them white. The thing is, the second wash, the one that I'm going to talk about in this video, is very challenging because this is when you do most of the interpretive work. You need to really see where the light and shadows are and how to convey that with the second wash. And also, you want it to flow and be even. You don't want it to feel like a very fragmented wash that is composed of many different elements that aren't really related to one another. You want to make sure that it flows. You want to connect shadows as much as possible. You want to keep the harmony going. You want to keep the color's vibrancy when necessary going. And so I find this to be a very challenging wash, okay? And this is what I want to focus on today. I'm going to cut out some of the beginning of the drawing and painting process, and I'm going to start just with the second wash, the middle values, and then I'm going to show you also how I wrap up this painting.
Okay, so we've got already here the initial wash, the drawing process is done, and I also left some highlights that I will soon come over with that mid-value wash. Okay, so this painting, I went at it in a bit of a different way than I usually do. I left a lot of white highlights, knowing that I will tone them down a little bit with this wash. So now I'm trying to get the impression of the mountains in the background. I actually ended up with a bit of an overworked look that I wasn't planning on getting. The result is a little too, I think, dark as well, but you'll soon see this. And it's okay, we can learn from that. A lot of these things are just tweaks that you can change and make depending on your taste, let's say. So you may prefer a certain look a little more, even while being objective and trying to represent reality in an accurate way. It's interesting because I recorded this process and now I'm just getting some wet in wet action done. But in any case, I recorded this process and a lot has changed since I painted this. And I came to many new insights and also many new confusions. As I find with the watercolor journey, once every while you don't really know what to work on. And I'm at that stage where I don't feel like I really know what I should improve or what I should do differently. And it could completely be a matter of I just need to practice more. So I'm trying to be in that mindset of not worrying too much and thinking necessarily that there's something I'm doing wrong, and maybe it's just a matter of practicing more. And I do get a lot of good feedback, but I always end up comparing what I'm doing to my ideal, to a painting that's been done by someone who's been at it for several decades. I'm looking at paintings by artists that I really admire that have been painting for, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I always tend to compare my work to theirs. When in fact it's not really a fair comparison, I guess, but it's still, I'm just lifting up some of that to hint at a fog or maybe, something coming out of the chimney. In any case, I don't know, it's not a fair comparison really, but it's still one I unavoidably do. And I think that the intent behind it is a good one, and that is that I really want to improve, and so I do that, but I know it's not completely fair. But in any case, a lot of my mindset has shifted even since painting this one, and I don't know if I would have done it significantly differently now, but I do know that a lot of the things I've done up to this point I'm really unsure about. But in any case, that's just part of the learning curve. And I think if you're looking back at your work and you completely understand why you did everything, then maybe you didn't really move forward that much. So now I'm putting in that mid-range between the highlights and the darkest, so you can see the roofs, and it actually helps giving it a more snowy look. If you look at the reference, you can see that these rooftops are a bit blue. They have a bit of a bluish, maybe purple tint to them. More blue than purple, I'd say. So I'm trying to get that, and this is what makes the highlight, the white highlight, really pop. Because up until this point, there were just many highlights. So just putting that in there really helps. I find that wash to be really one of the most challenging, and I'm working in a rather tight way here, not that loose, not as loose at least as I'd want to, and I'm really trying to get every detail in there, except from the sides here where you see me just improvising. And I am more attracted to the looseness of conveying realism with just fewer shapes and fewer lines and fewer washes. But with this one, I didn't really get to go there. And sometimes you plan a painting out, and it just turns out process-wise completely different than what you'd planned, and that's fine. That happens. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I just think you need to make your own lessons. So anyway, this wash is, I think, very challenging because you have to move along and keep the freshness, keep it looking even as much as possible, connecting the shadows, connecting all the major shapes, while maintaining the correct values and color harmony. And so it is a lot of work, and it's definitely a challenging step. I'm currently, it's funny because I feel like I'm starting to really master the first wash, but my issues come with the second one. Always in circles, always the learning process is in circles. In the beginning I felt like another part was lacking, now I feel this part was lacking. And no matter how much good feedback I'll get, I still view the faults of my own work. I can't really help it. But anyway, now we're zooming in a bit so you can see more of the details. And I will go back later on with that same blue and get some of the mid values of the roofs. But in any case, the second wash is the most important in terms of doing again, for me at least, in my style, doing most of the heavy lifting of the painting. And this is why I find it challenging. And this is why I wanted to share this particular stage. We're now in it, and later on I will show you, unlike the drawing stage and the initial wash, I will show you the finalization of this, so you will get to see how this turns into hopefully a final painting. For now we're still in that middle wash, getting those middle values. I see, the reason why I even wanted to talk about this topic was initially that I see a lot of people make the mistake of painting to the extremes. So you got your shadows in, you've got your highlights in, but that's all there is. There's not enough mid values. There's no mid tones. And it really leads to a problematic look, a very stylized look, a very, how will I describe it? Stylized, I think, works best. So it's a look that's very modified from real life. And that's fine if you're deliberately aiming for that look, and a lot of different creations aim for that look, like children's books, for example, things like this. I'm just covering up some of those harsh highlights there, but in any case, a lot of different media strive for that look. But if you're not, I don't want you to mistakenly do it, So in any case, this stylized look is a problem for me. I try to avoid it as much as possible. It's not necessarily my natural inclination to go there. Luckily, sorry, I had a hiccup, but it does happen to me from time to time. So anyway, my main complaint to myself with this painting so far is just the overworked background. Aside from that, I could have probably done it much in a much simpler manner, just even in one layer. So these kinds of things sometimes frustrate me a bit because I find inefficiencies in my own work. Many times you can find inefficiencies in your work. And it is quite annoying sometimes to see that you could have done something really much more easily and with less effort. And a lot of the becoming more efficient with painting is finding those ways to do the same thing, get the same effect, but with less effort and with less work, because you end up helping it look more fresh and just better. In any case, so now I'm moving in, we're done with the middle wash. So now what you see is just wrapping up the painting, doing those stronger shadows under the rooftops and putting in the windows, just some architectural details. Mainly the shadows under the roofs. Those are the most important ones I find in this particular work. I feel like it is lacking a bit in depth, and this could have been changed by making the backdrop a little lighter again. These are the kind of things, I think those are high level problems, I think. So these are the kind of high level problems I find myself sometimes struggling with. And I really don't know, it's like a weird learning curve, so whatever. Just some of these things are solved of themselves. I just blurred some of that line because it felt a little too harsh. That line on the roof is very weakly defined, so you don't need a lot of details there. Putting those dormers on the roof, the windows on the sides of the building. With my small rigger brush, I'm doing this. It's a really small brush. I do want to I saw a rigger that starts fat and then gets thin, and that way it can hold a lot of water, so I do want to get something like that. I saw Keiko Tanabe using it, so who I really, by the way, love her work. So in any case, I'm just trying to add some final touches. I don't want to overdo it. The one thing that's left is just the water, and then we're done. The water was very light, and I knew it. I just waited to this moment. And now I'm trying to lift up some highlights. And this is almost done. You'll soon get to see the final result in picture form. So I'm putting just a bit of ripples on the water surface. And here, in just a moment, you're going to see the final painting. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so I'm done. I think this is a good point to stop. It's not like a perfect painting, definitely. There's a lot of patchiness in the background that takes away some of the attention. Sorry, I had a hiccup again. That takes away some of the focus of the viewer. There's a lot of things that could have been done better, but hopefully the point got across in terms of the midtones and the second wash. That can be a huge challenge for me. In the beginning, I was struggling with initial washes and just getting everything to be even, but later on, when I figured the gist of that, moving on to the second wash started becoming a challenge again. And I think you'll find this throughout your watercolor journey, that every time you learn some things anew, and things that weren't even problematic before now become problematic just because you went up a level, you went up a notch, and you became better. So in any case, yes, I'm really pleased with the result. Overall, I think there's good abstraction, good simplification. You saw the process of movement that I started here with the second wash, then I made a kind of a circle and went back. I think the mountains could have been done in a much better way, but I'm very pleased with how I connected the washes and worked on the mid values of the actual buildings here. The water also I'm pretty pleased with. I did it really quickly. I wasn't trying to do too much there. So anyway, this is it. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Let's change the angle and wrap up this video. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something new. Don't worry if it takes you time to master that second wash. It is a big challenge, and I am having, many times I'm having a hard time with this one. I find that the initial wash is never the point where I mess things up. You know, things usually get along or go along pretty nicely in that stage. I'm also pretty good, I think, with the shadows and getting the darker shadows, but the middle wash is the one that gives me the most trouble and that I find myself struggling with, and it's also the ugly stage. This is the stage where things aren't connecting necessarily as you'd want to. It's the stage where you have to work quickly. It's just everything. And so I find that I'm pretty competent at it, but I still at times lose track of what I'm doing, and it is a big challenge. So don't worry about that. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, don't forget to give it a like and share it if you have someone you know it will help, and also comment below if you want me to touch upon any different topics or you have an idea for something you want me to cover. I'll also put links to everything and some kind of a conclusion and summary in the description box, and links to my podcast and to my Patreon page and to my Instagram and everything else, so you can definitely check it out there. And if you still haven't subscribed, I have a lot of videos like this one, so make sure you do. And I will see you again in another vid real soon.